wait around. No need to, waste any time. Let's talk about this Ohio State and Oregon football game. Oregon comes out on top 32-31 and wins in incredible fashion. And I don't really know where to start in this football game, but I think I know where I want to start, and you guys know where it is. It's the deep state. We got to start there. Finally, somebody was able to do it. We've been watching, and first of all, any broadcaster that has to call an Ohio State game 7 games in or 6 games in when they've played nobody, can we stop with this is the first team to do against Ohio State this year? Because they ain't played nobody, Paul. So, yeah, it was the first time they gave up a 100-yard rusher. They ain't played nobody, Paul. It was the first time they gave up a 100-yard receiver. They ain't played nobody, Paul. All right, so they finally played somebody, and somebody was able to do what we've been talking about on this network all offseason. Somebody was going to take away this run game and put this football game at the feet of Will Howard. They were going to say, Will, it's your job today. And here's how they did it. There were 21 carries for 110 yards between TreVeyon Henderson and Judkins in this football game. 53 of those yards came from one run on TreVeyon Henderson. So just to give you a quick math right here, on 20 traditional running back carries on Saturday afternoon, 20 of 21, Ohio State averaged 2.85 yards per carry. That's boxing. That's what that is. That is taking that run game and putting it into a box. And like I said, putting the game at the feet of Will Howard. And, honestly, apart from the last 40 seconds of this football game, I thought Will Howard was going to make me eat some crow on this show. I even tweeted, I thought I was going to have to come out here and give some flowers for the first time all season for my man Will Howard, because I've been king of the anti-Will Howard deep state. All right, so much so that I was getting tagged quite a bit on social media of it. But, man, 28 of 35 for 326, 2 tuds, and that's just the box score. But I thought, again, for 58 and a half minutes of this football game, I felt like he earned the right, and I will imagine moving forward, he has earned the right for this football team to take the training wheels up off this passing game. Because I don't understand. This is not Ohio State of old from a conceptual standpoint with regards to throwing the football. They throw so many 10 yards from the line of scrimmage and under routes with all these wide receivers, all that money they gave that quarterback, and they baby this dude. For 58 and a half minutes, they were babying this guy. I think at one point he had 20 completions for 225. That ain't Ohio State, guys. That's not Ohio State football. Now, he finished with 325, right? 28 for 326. He finished with an explosive down the field passing attack because in 2 minutes they had to. In 2 minutes they were forced to take the training wheels off of it. And by God, he was dotting sons of bitches. He was throwing ball after ball after ball. And then it all went to hell. So let's talk about the 2 minute. Let's get right to that. But I wanted to talk about that, how Ohio State, from a passing game standpoint, I know Chip Kelly just got there, but Ryan Day is still the head coach, and they are not running the standard typical Ohio State passing attack that I am used to watching this team do. And maybe I'm wrong, and correct me if I am, but here's the staple of Ohio State offense, in my opinion. All right, I have yet to see one Dover from the number 2 receiver running clear across the field about 30 yards. Yet to see one of those, we got to throw this with anticipation. We got to lead this runner throwing away from us. CJ Stroud, 8 teams with that play. Haven't seen it. I have yet to see a double move, like we're going to work against this corner, 3 corner, and we're going to really ask you to throw this ball 35 yards onto the sideline. This is Ohio State passing concepts I have not seen just yet until the 2 minute. So let's talk about the 2 minute. This is 2 straight weeks on this channel. We have come to this channel with most people on Sunday ready for me to shit down the neck of a quarterback who pissed down his leg at the end of a football game. I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to do that, all right? I've got criticisms elsewhere, and we got to address that, right? I have felt like in 2 minute, in critical football games, last week, Tennessee, Arkansas, this week, Ohio State, Oregon, ironically, both games ending with 6 seconds left on the clock, both games ending with the quarterback not giving their football team a chance to even compete in the football game or win the football game, let alone compete, right? And both situations, I felt like probably could have been avoided had the coach taken the reins of the situation. All right. Frantic players get blamed when frantic football coaches lead to frantic football players, in my opinion. In my opinion, when the whole operation is frantic, the players will inevitably be frantic. So I can't sit here and give 100% of criticism to Will Howard for losing his mind at the end of that football game, because I felt like the whole sideline over there on the headsets and everyone involved was losing their mind from Ohio State. So, yeah, we can throw it on the Q, and we're going to throw it on the Q. But let's throw it on everybody else, too, because you did go down with a timeout in your pocket. Granted, you were trying to hold it for your field goal. Let's get into it, all right? Ohio State gets the football down 1 with 1 minute and 47 seconds left in this football game with 1 timeout. All right, on P&10, the first play of the possession, they take a fall down sack. Will Howard gets pressure, just falls down, tries to avoid it, falls down, takes a sack. It's now 2nd and 14, all right? They run an out route, like an 8-yard out route to the sideline. Will Howard throws an absolute dot. It's up and away. It's the only spot where his guy can catch the football. It gets them out of bounds, stops the clock. 3rd and 6, they go to an Ohio State staple, mesh Z spot on 3rd and 6. They know they have 2 downs. They know if they get tackled, it's okay. We can get back on the ball, try to pick up the first down, all right? So they run mesh Z spot. Will Howard throws a great runner in front of the wide receiver. Wide receiver picks up the first down, gets out of bounds. Now it's 1st and 10. They run a square in to Jeremiah Smith, an absolute dot from Will Howard. Hits him right in the face mask. They end up getting into a 2nd and 1 with 40 seconds left on the clock. No huddle, get right back on it. They throw it's a corner route, but it's really not. It's like, hey, we're going to bend this instead of sticking it at the top of the route. We're going to run a little corner to Emeka Ibuka. An absolute dot. An absolute dot. One of the best throws Will Howard threw all day on like a 20-yard, again, hybrid kind of corner route. They get out of bounds. On 1st and 10 with 34 seconds left, they get into a stacked release, try to run the same exact play to Jeremiah Smith. It's an incomplete pass, I thought, in a very decent spot from Will Howard. All right. Now, 2nd and 10, here's where things start to break loose. They get called for what is very clearly an offensive pass interference. I don't want to hear about, oh, it's football. Oh, they haven't. No. Jeremiah Smith pushed that guy off. Unfortunate. He's too strong for his own good, whatever you want to say. OPI, good call. Hard call to make in that situation. Now it's 2nd and 25. 2nd and 25. Will Howard's arm gets hit. All right. But there are 12 men on the field for Oregon. Now, this is where the internet starts to run with theories. And I do believe Dan Lanning is an analytical football coach. Lord knows he runs the numbers. Lord knows he probably has cheated every single rule book you can possibly cheat in hopes to gain a defensive advantage. 12 men on the field, brilliant. Apparently, it's a clock management ploy. You get this and you do this because when the ball is spotted, the clock is going to be running. They knew this. Ohio State did not. Clearly, Ohio State did not tell Will Howard, hey, the clock is going to be running, because Will Howard's out here running pre-snap motion, thinking the clock was going to start when the play started. He was so wrong. So was the coordinating staff on the offensive side, all right? Because when you go out and you break that huddle and you run out to the field or whatever the situation is, you're in the comms, you have to tell the quarterback, hey, once the ball's set, the clock's going to be winding. The clock starts to wind. They lose 7 vulnerable seconds trying to get in a right formation. They run a play, incomplete pass. Now it's 3rd and 25 with 6 seconds left on the clock, and you're out of field goal range. Troublesome situation. Again, have to be in the headset, would imagine you are, telling your quarterback, hey, we can't let the clock expire. We can't let the clock expire. We can't let the clock expire. And he tried not to let the clock expire and just just didn't have a good internal clock. Ran out of time, slid down, tried to call the timeout. They couldn't. End of game. They get stormed. My God, just right? And there's a lot of credit to be given here. Credit Dan Lanning. If that's indeed a trick, he'll never say it because he doesn't want the rule to get changed. So you'll never hear about it. Credit that environment, because obviously, like, you have to, I feel like I always forget to mention the crowd noise and all that stuff. but you have to give credit to that crowd because clearly everyone was panicking. Now, I know it's a 2-minute drill and I know things are going fast, but when you're in an environment like that, things get ramped up. They get ramped up to a 10th degree right there. So I know Will Howard is getting crushed. He should be getting crushed, but I thought there was some coaching errors right there or a lack of coaching that could have avoided some of these issues. No different than last week when Heupel had the opportunity to call a play on 4th and 6 in a no-huddle situation with the game clock stopped, the play clock draining, calls a timeout, and removes the idea that we have an ability to get tackled in bounds. So now you're putting it all on your quarterback in that situation to go win you the football game instead of putting him in the best situation to have him go win you the football game. So it was bad at the end of that football game. But again, I see frantic players. I blame frantic coaches. That's what I do. And again, I'm probably a little bit too coach blame, and maybe I don't provide enough opportunity to have credit or blame be associated to the player themselves. And maybe that's my previous bias as a player. But it is your job. It's your job as a football coach to not have a situation where your quarterback doesn't recognize the situation and where you clearly don't recognize the situation. Because I heard the TV broadcast, they didn't show it, but the TV broadcast could obviously see Ryan Day bitching at the wide receiver or the referee about the clock having started. Coach, the rules are the clock should start. That's tough. Now let's talk about Oregon. Oregon absolutely needed that football game. Big time. That program needed that football game. And I got to say this about Oregon. They make it really hard on themselves. Really hard on themselves. And maybe this is why they have such up and down performances. But, man, defensively, apart from their front six, they make it really hard on themselves to not give up points because they give up so many explosives in the back end. And it's something we talked about coming into the year. Way too many new bodies back there. Way too many guys that just got here, right? Way too many that just got here to expect them to play flawless football. They're going to give up explosives. So that makes it really hard defensively. Offensively, I feel like they're too reliant on big shots. Their whole offense, apart from Jordan James, who's a consistent, we can go to this guy and we can eat, right? Apart from that, their whole offensive structure is, hey, can we hit one of these 50-yard bombs? And when they do, great, score. When they don't, right? Their whole offensive structure is predicated off of Jordan James is going to be a consistent factor. Can we hit these explosives? And when they do, they're great. But they make it really hard on themselves. And I think that's something that might expose itself even against football teams who are not as talented as Ohio State. They got the win. This is why they have so many of these different ups and downs. They make it really, really hard on themselves on both sides of the football. They are an incredible watch, though. My God, are they an incredible watch. They are really, really entertaining. But this is what you go into the portal, and this is why you're willing to invest in the quarterback at the rate that you are for games and moments like this. Dylan Gabriel, I don't know what his NIL deal is. He made every single dollar of it last night and some. Every single dollar of it and some. 14.82 yards per completion. Every single time in this football game where they needed an answer, he found it, right? I know he missed some reads in the red zone like he has the last several weeks. I understand that. But every single time this team needed an answer and needed to get back into this game, while Ohio State's like methodically grinding it out and scoring balls and scoring touchdowns, quick strikes, boom, 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 boom. The scramble and touchdown run at the end, phenomenal. Just a big play, massive moment. And it's exactly what he did in the Red River last year. Like, they were a little bit outmatched. They were out-talented. I think you could agree in that football game they were as well. Ohio State on paper has the better top-to-bottom football roster, in my opinion. I think you would agree as well. But he was the better quarterback in better moments, in bigger moments last night. And that's why they won the football game. No turnovers. I mean, just played phenomenally in this one. Every answer that they needed to. That's why you do it. And they did it double over. They went and got Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore. And they'll be fine next year when Dylan Gabriel goes to the league, you would imagine. Coordinator change doesn't matter. They keep having good offensive performances and explosive offensive performances. I think everyone that watched that football game agrees, though, those teams are very, very evenly matched. Very, very evenly matched. I said I would give the nod to Ohio State from a roster structure, but it's slim margins. Very slim margins. So yeah, I mean, what a football game, and what a shaping up the Big Ten has, right? Ohio State has to go on the road to Penn State in Happy Valley, and we'll see what happens there. And I'll probably pick Ohio State to win that football game, but I've changed my tune on Penn State, and you'll hear that here in a couple of minutes when we start talking about that football game. I have to change my tune on Penn State. They did something Saturday that I didn't think they were possible or able to do. So we'll have to talk about that in a little bit. But those two teams, very, very evenly matched. Excited to see a potential rematch if it ultimately happens.